Good?
Yep.
All right.
The video is on.
Okay, perfect. So good morning. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Atchison County Commission meeting for Tuesday, October 22nd. I'd like to call the meeting to order. This morning, there's no invocation scheduled. So if you please stand and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, public comment? Seeing none. We don't have the minutes from our last commission meeting from October 8th.
That's correct.
So we will skip that. Commissioner comments, Commissioner Knoll?
I have a meeting tonight with the Multi-County Board of Health. Christina Romine has decided to move on, and so we're gonna have to select a new person to lead Multi-County Health. So, or to be the CFO, so it's gonna be a major undertaking.
Yeah.
So,
This a lot.
yeah. And there's, with all of the stuff, there's a lot to do here in a short time though, so. And I don't think I have anything else.
Okay. The only thing I have is the Kansas Hospital Association had asked me to speak last week at their event, their all-star event in Topeka. And I just appreciate the opportunity. It was really good to get my head together with folks from local hospitals and then be able to discuss how our relationship with our local hospital works. So that was good. Other than that, I have nothing. New business. There will be a few purchase orders added to our agenda later. And the finance director will go over those. The first item on the agenda is no longer on the agenda. We had Jody Moore, HR director, Amberwell occupational contract approval. So we will bump that off here until next week. And then we will have a 30-minute executive session in place of that.
Ready?
Yep.
I'll move that the Board of County Commissioners recess into executive session at 10:03 a.m. to discuss personal matters of non-elected personnel as allowed by K.S.A. 75-4319B1. And that the purpose of the closed session is to protect the privacy rights of the employee, and that the board come out of executive session in 30 minutes in the commission room of the courthouse basement. And those present will be 3 commissioners, Connie Ellerman, treasurer, and is there anyone else? No, okay, just us.
Okay, I will second. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 2-0. We will go into executive session until 10:33.
Okay. And then even.
Okay, we are back from executive session. Next on the agenda, I had put the 2026 budget discussions and projections. I did that after our meeting 2 weeks ago. Mark had came to us, or I have it, the sales tax predictions that he was giving us, and they're looking into those options. I guess after I dug into it deeper and deeper, I wanted your take, because you and I are going to be looking at the 2026 budget numbers. And after looking at the cuts and what 2026 is going to look like, I don't think a sales tax, I don't think giving folks an option. Oh, is this a sales tax prediction?
Yeah, so
you went through with us? Okay.
Yeah, so this is kind of what we had before.
Okay.
So I added EMS's CIP plan.
Okay.
So it totals to that in those 10 years.
Okay.
Then over here on the right side is the revenue that they
Mhm.
estimate to get each year.
Okay.
So with a 1 cent each year, what the 1 cent would be based on this number up here with the budget and just factoring in 3% each year to the budget for some inflation. Those are your numbers. So that's where you're at. So then bringing down the CIP plan number. You get your total in revenue minus your budget, minus your CIP plan. That's where you get the 631.
Okay.
But then you factor in any revenue that they get. And that's estimated, excuse me. So that brings your total left over to the 7 million number. That's if that revenue holds out. So then I kind of did a hard line to break down the 3/4 cent and how much revenue would be brought in. So you do the 3/4 cent sales tax minus the budget, minus the CIP in your negative 6 million. Then you add in that 6.5 million in estimated revenue, and that's where you kind of come up to that 531. But of course, there's a lot of fluctuation with this, right? Like, we don't have to take into account that EMS revenue, because that's going to go back into the general fund. Or we can figure out what to do with it. Or maybe not everything on the CIP plan gets funded.
There were some things on there that
That maybe didn't
was a
agree with.
large item that
Sure.
at the end,
Sure.
if you remember that one, and I don't think.
Yeah,
that-
and the
yeah.
10-year one.
Yeah,
But just for purposes,
Yeah,
that's
right.
kind of what that
um,
shows.
So
which there hasn't been any discussion, so that's. Thank you, Mark.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
But I guess what my fear is having Mark do any more work, right, at this point, because like he was explaining like bond counsel and all the things. I looked at what we did for 2025 and recap that, okay? So we had 666,000 of cash for 2025. We won't have that for 2026. We reduced the EMS 100,000. Plus they have 20,000 for their 2026 CIP, so that's 120. We reduced approximately 500,000 from road and bridge for hard surface road plan, which we'll need to add back. Extension, what they told us 2 weeks ago that they will need is another 61,466. I put a placeholder for COLA back in here because we used ARPA for COLA. And then we funded 100,000 of project concern with the ARPA. So the 1.6, which makes sense, because when we chose 57 mils instead of the 62, what it was, Mark said, okay, now you guys got to go cut $1.6 million. So we did that. But when you add that back in, you're going back to that 7 mil increase. So the mills were 224,000 a piece. So when you divide what our increase in 2026 is going to be, the mills.
You postponed it is what it is.
Well, so here's my fear, right? Like the EMS sales tax makes sense if we were levying taxes to cover our operations. My fear is with where we left ourselves. If we levy an EMS tax with good intentions of making a difference, it's not going to make a difference. And I don't want to give people false sense of security.
Because they will think that
They're-
our property tax is gonna go down by passing the
And it's
sales
not.
tax. It's
It's
still gonna
not.
go up.
You're gonna go up 6 or 7 mils and people are like, that's double taxation to make 0 cents.
And I've had that fear, and I think I expressed it earlier, that we can't just be adding this new tax and still go up 5, 6 mils. And people, I mean, they're gonna say, well, you basically as passing a tax, you promised us by passing a sales tax that
100%.
it's gonna take us down.
And I think that's my thing is after recapping 2025 budget process of what we did, you're gonna be looking at that same mill increase in 2026. So I think an EMS sales tax in the future could absolutely be an option, but we have to be levying taxes to cover our operations first, right? Like you have to,
So it's
Hit a
not
baseline.
don't look like a bait and switch,
well,
where you're saying,
it would be silly.
we're gonna lower your taxes by getting the sales tax, and then we get the sales tax and then still raise tax. property taxes
Right.
that much.
So can I say something about my department?
Sure.
So for the 2024 budget, it was $3,790,130. We, as a group, or the commission and Road and Bridge, wanted to fund the Ottawa Road project. So we could start doing our yearly thing. We got a grant. And I believe our cost per year was estimated at 824 or some $1,000 per year. Well, in 2024, you guys inserted $666,000 from ARPA into my budget. That doesn't reflect on this $3,790,000. If you add that 666,000 in there, actually 2024's budget was $4,456,000. This year, for 2025, my budget numbers are $4,162.95. After we cut, we had to put that 666 in to keep Ottawa Road project. And when that project's done, I want everybody to understand it'll be for another road project or whatever we need to do. But everybody thinks that I had $464,000 worth of fluff, and that my budget went up was almost $1 million higher. It wasn't, because that 666 was put in there as money for me to spend in 2024. So it shows when everything was sent out, it showed 3.7 million, and I was asking for 4.4, 4.5. And I was almost straight across the line with my budget. So we cut my budget, and with a few increases, $300,000. So right now, is what I'm saying making sense? Does everybody understand what I'm saying? I want the public to know that what we cut was not my projected budget, but we cut 300,000 out of my budget. So
Yeah,
because
correct.
everybody thinks that that 464 was just money I had, and I didn't have it. It's money we needed. It was in the budget from the year before, but we had to add this 666 in to cover the Ottawa Road. And that's what it made it look like this was a huge increase for me, and it wasn't an increase. It wound up being a $300,000 cut in budget. So now we're sitting here with the south end of Osborne Road that we're going to talk about when I get to mine, that we have to do something with. We have a bridge that's basically shot that we have to do something with. And if we had that money in our budget, we could move that, like if it's a surface road budget, we could pay for the surface road. But now I'm gonna have to take money out of next year's surface road, pay for it with special highway now, take next year's surface road money to pay it back, and then we're not gonna be able to do the 7.5 miles that we wanted to do. We're going from 20 miles to nothing. And I just want everybody to understand, and if I'm saying it wrong, please tell me.
No, I'm following.
I'm following too. And to your point with the 666,000, we were sitting in 2023 looking at 2024, and after the R&R hit of almost $500,000, and we genuinely thought, okay, ARPA can help offset the tax to the people with the 666, but it was staring right back at us
And it's going to every
This
year
year,
until we address
until
it.
you address
But
it.
that's your decision to make. I just wanted everybody to understand.
But also during our budget hearing, I thought, and it didn't dawn on me. I was like listening and taking all the comments in, right, until afterwards, that when we had this spreadsheet, that sheet up on here, and like the public was looking at it and like asking questions, like they were calling out the percentages. So like
Yes,
when
correct.
I'm gonna use the treasurer as a good example, because it's, when you look across at hers, it shows she's almost increased her budget 20%. What isn't factored in there is we made her reduce her budget 50,000 the year before. And so now when she comes back to par, it looks like she increased 20%, but that's not accurate.
Yeah, but how do you show that then? I can't do
No,
it. I
no,
can't do
no,
a-
no, no, no,
and this isn't against you, but it's against the commission for finding all these ways to manipulate behind the scenes versus just being,
Because my budget looked like it increased 22% at first, but it didn't.
yeah.
And it's,
And then it's still at 4,162,000 when I've actually taken a $300,000 cut, shows that I increased 9.8. Because it didn't take into the fact that even though that 666 didn't come from taxpayers' money, it came from ARPA, which is the same thing, but it was injected in there. Nobody understands that I had that money for 2024. And I didn't go up 9%. I actually went down $300,000 in my budget for 2025.
Well, and to the point of, we need to make it simple and we need to make it easy for the public to see what their dollars are going to, right? Which we have good intentions. We found the road bond, the bridge bond have been plugged into your budget now. So when you look, you can see exactly what
Yeah, 'cause
What
they
the
didn't-
bonds
they
are
didn't
paid for.
used to be.
those didn't used to be. You were paying for them, but it was over here, like.
So
we're
that
trying
makes
to-
my budget increase when you took it from this spot into road and bridge.
Yep,
That $767,000 or whatever it is added into my budget where it wasn't before.
Yeah.
So that's almost misleading, or we're not educating everybody to understand what we've done. And that's a lot of my increases.
well, and yes,
it's a lot to keep our head around it when we're dealing with it every week. But for the public, when they see it, it's like, oh my gosh, it's.
He went up $1 million and he didn't.
Yeah.
so I guess I just wanted to get your stance on where your head's at for 2026, because after looking at this, that I feel like must be added back into our budget. I think we're wasting any more of the finance director's time. I don't think this is the year. I think that the sales tax is a very good option for the future. I think EMS is the way to go with that. I just I'm not in favor of putting it on 2025 when in 2026, we're gonna
We're
look
gonna have
at
to deal
that
with
kind of
this.
a mill increase.
And I think that would almost derail
Trust.
all trust in the county if we would do that. And like I say, it would look like a bait and switch. But you promised that if we pass this, that it would lower our taxes. Well, it would lower that portion of it, but it's not gonna be dealing with the bigger picture.
Plus, if Holly said the T values were gonna go up,
Which you,
that also means that the revenue neutral rate goes down, so whatever that goes down by,
And
those
cost.
mills, it takes that extra to come back up to the same level.
Yeah.
When it goes down 2 mills, you've just lost. If you want to levy the same amount of ad valorem, how can you, if you just lost the 2 mills that the R&R rate went down? So there'd already be an increase right there. If you wanted to levy the same amount. Because you're still above R&R.
I'm gonna keep our options open, think about it. Like I say, I think it is a doable, but I found also see a lot of focus now is from different entities, and like the city of Effingham has a 1 cent sales tax there. And if all of a sudden there's gonna be sales tax for, I mean, it's.
I sent Mark a flyer from Allen County and they're bold. They're putting on the flyer, it's gonna reduce property tax. I'm like, I mean, you can't, look at
And
this.
they must not have any increases anywhere else. If
But-
that's.
And they must be levying what it takes to run their county so that they
They can.
can see it make a difference.
So I don't know. We want to go into it to where it's a good experience and not a
Well, and
fight.
if we're going through the channels of believing in it, we have to believe in it to know it's gonna make a difference, and it's not gonna make a difference with where we're sitting today, I don't think.
The only way, if you would have to really put it out there, it's like. if you had a projection and it's like. We project 7 mills, but if this passes, we project 3 mills, or have those figures. To where you could really educate the public, like this, we're still gonna go up, and you really have to put that out there but then I don't know if it'll pass.
Yeah. And I feel like we're better off being at that benchmark of this is what it takes to run Atchison County. And then explaining that and then finding solutions that can provide relief, Because this is now the third year that we're not. And this is the third year and the cash is used, so.
Okay.
I have got phone calls about extension, so I wanted to know, are you on board with funding extension to what they need for 2026? Going up to that requested amount that they had.
There is what they need. I mean, there's other things that we cut. Are we gonna, if they say they need more funding, are we gonna go up for them? I can't say that I am right now.
Okay,
I don't know.
I don't know if you've heard, but one of their agents is leaving.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So again, I think it's just. I just wondered where you were at, because your goal and their goal is the districting piece, and I felt like they were on momentum to get there, but then losing an agent and
Which agent? No.
Mr. Lee,
Oh,
so. Anyway, I just wanted to,
I can't say
I
that
want that-
because with the way this budget looks and those projections. We may have to cut more. I don't know. And it's bad enough to cut them once, but I don't want to give them false hope because I don't know what we're gonna do on the rest of it. I mean, I'm not singling them out or anything, because I had the question posed to me if I was on board with the cut that we did make during the budget season. Like, were you singling? I said, I didn't single them out. And I said, we talked about all the appropriations kind of as a group, and we got to the figure and I approved them all. I wouldn't have specifically I only want to cut extension
Oh,
or
100%.
like that.
and that was the same conversation I had to have with some of our elected officials, right? Of like, we had a plan with reserves, and that plan went out the window when all that was taken away. But like, when you are sitting at 62 mills and then you choose to go with 57 and you got to find $1.6 million to cut, it's like scraping the bottom of the barrel. Like, where are you going to find that,
But
right?
we even went a little further and we cut more than we were lower than the 57. I mean,
So
I
I don't want to waste Mark's time, and it's the sales tax. I don't want him going to bond cancel or putting any more time and effort into us. If you're not on board, because I'm not on board with the sales tax.
I don't think that, especially we'll have a third commissioner change. It'll be hard for them to get on board, because we'll be needing to act on that.
Well, it needs
If we
to
were
be
gonna, yeah,
done
now,
now.
and I don't anticipate it, so I kind of go along with your analysis.
I think it's good we have the information we do have. We have the information from the revisers, other counties, for the future.
Yeah.
But as far as looking at where we stand and where we're headed, I don't think that.
I agree.
Okay. ASAF and USD 377 sports complex maintenance request. So I have the fourth quarter payment request for USD 377 in the amount of $2,500 for the maintenance in the Effingham site, and ASAF for $10,000. Total amount to be paid from this fund, $12,500. Do I have a motion to allow the chair to sign?
So move.
It's been moved. I will second. Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. This is 2-0. Next on the list was sales tax discussion, so we'll just bypass that. I have project concern support letter requests. Do you have that?
That's news to me.
Me too, and I'm on
Don't
board.
have that. I don't have that, no.
Okay, so we will skip that. I do have a proclamation. Let's look at the date on this. It would be nice, you know what? I'm gonna keep this in the folder for next week because this is dated for November 1st. So if we do it next week,
Oh.
because Alan can sign it with us, like we can
Okay.
all sign it. So I'll just wait on that one.
And what is the proclamation?
For veterans,
Oh, yes,
the green light for veterans proclamation, and I checked with Brian yesterday, and he's gonna change the courthouse again for that week.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
Can we keep that with that?
Yep.
That was, wasn't for sure what that was for in the folder, but now that makes sense.
okay. So put that in there. Okay, do you want to do your 3 POs really quick?
Sure.
That way that's wrapped up.
So the first one I have, is to Atchison Senior Village Ensign. It's the 13th payout of money received. We received $430.22. It's Ensign's money, so we're just paying it out to them.
For a motion to approve this purchase order as presented by our finance director in the amount of $430.22 to Ensign.
so moved.
It's been moved. I will second. Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes 2-0.
The second purchase order was already paid to Gary Service Enterprise for crush and run for the Lewis and Clark Walking Bridge. It was 126 tons. The total was 9,104.25. It was paid with ARPA funds. It was part of the road and bridge 666,058 number. That was used to offset his budget for 24. This purchase order was just missed. So if we still want it paid from ARPA funds, we need to approve this purchase order.
So this is still within that 600,
Yeah.
okay, perfect, okay. So I would look for a motion to approve the purchase order in the amount of 9,104.25 to Gary Service Enterprises.
So moved.
I will second,
Did you say ARPA in there?
out of the ARPA funds, yep.
Thanks.
Okay, so it's been moved, I will second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes 2-0. Yeah, further, because we
Oh.
didn't meet last week.
Yeah.
Which if you want, I was just looking through them, I'm not there yet, but if you don't know.
I'm fine. I was doing a deja vu, so.
This third thing is a journal entry, not really a purchase order. But it's moving money from the ARPA fund to county general to cover, payroll costs. Is the $240,000 for the COLA that was estimated would be for 2025. However, we have to spend it in 2024. So we're moving it now to cover the cost, what it would be for 25. And there's some documentation back here. There's also a letter that the Lloyd Group has prepared that gives us the authority to make that journal entry.
All right, I would look for a motion to approve the Atchison County transfer from account 143-00-53105, which is the grant disbursement of ARPA, to 001-20-50 $51,200 for personnel services in the amount of $240,000 for this transfer. Do I have a motion to approve?
Yes, with discussion.
Okay.
So by moving it into county general, does that count as spending it?
It does.
Okay, because it almost seems like it wouldn't be spent until the recipients got
So-
that
Basically, what happens, what we're doing right now is,
preloading it or.
yeah, reimbursing that cost. So technically, we're reimbursing what's already been expensed. So then there would be leftover money
Mhm.
from 2024 that would move to 2025.
Okay, so it's
Which
actually gonna
reduces-
be spent out in 2024,
Yes.
and then those funds are rolled over for, okay.
Yes.
Because it sounded to me like it was like. Look, putting it in the bank to spend next year, which to me didn't fit with the criteria of what, so, all right, I'm fine with that.
And those last two pages that's on that is from the Lloyd Group, and they have statutes and research that backs up that that's
Okay.
able.
I knew it had to be right, but just to get my head
Sure.
wrapped around what I was hearing, I wanted to know. Thank you.
So Commissioner Knoll has made a motion to approve this. I will second it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes to 0.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. 11. So Joe, you're next. So Joe Snyder, Road and Bridge Superintendent, has 5 items today. Ottawa Road Culverts Project Bid Discussion and Approval, Grader Training Discussion for Bridge 11.K.3 on Finney Road, Ottawa and Osborne Road Discussion, and Cleaning Ditches and Culverts Discussion.
Good morning.
Oh,
So first up is the Ottawa Road culvert selection of vendor for phase 1. I just want to say that there was one vendor who was concerned that they were the only one who bid every item on the project, concrete and all. The other vendors, if they did not have concrete, one of them did not bid the concrete part of it. We did get a hold of 3 different concrete vendors, and only one sent in a concrete sections of pipe bid. So I just wanted everybody to understand that this vendor was concerned because he bid everything and no one else did.
My read on that RFP was that it didn't explicitly say we would take someone or they wouldn't be eligible unless they voted or not voted, but bid the whole job, so.
well, and I feel like, so I'm familiar with several of the vendors and some of them don't do one or the other.
Right.
And for us to get ample amounts of bids, like you can't have an one size fits all for everybody, right? Then we would have only had one bid and no one to compare it to. And I feel like the recommendation to go with the 2 saves us like $17,050 almost. So I don't see any problem with the way we handled it or solicited bids.
Okay, well, I just wanted to bring that up. I was asked to,
Yeah.
and I did. So with that being said, it would be accept the bid from Metal Sales for $136,582.95. And also the bid from Old Castle Infrastructure on the concrete of $2,808.08.
Metal
Yeah.
culverts.
Yeah, and I have POs for both of those.
I'm glad that was your recommendation because I still have my notes from 2 weeks ago and that's what I highlighted too, because
So there's the POs for those. And this is a bid tab formulated from Swaby.
all right, so I'd look for a motion to approve purchase order to Metal Culverts in the amount of $136,582.95 as presented by our Road and Bridge Director for our bid opening from October 8th.
So,
All right, then moved. I will second. Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 2-0. Okay, and I have a purchase order in the amount of $2,808.08 to Old Castle Infrastructure for the RCP pipe as presented by our Road and Bridge Director for our bid opening on October 8th. Do I have a
So
motion?
moved.
Okay, and I will second. So it's moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 2-0.
The metal pipe will be about a 4-week delivery, and the RCBs, they keep those on hand, so those will be delivered whenever we need them. All right, my second was the greater training discussion, which we had discussed. I think it's a great training. Unfortunately, right now, with everything that's coming up, I do not have the funds to pay for it. And then there's concerns from all of us about if we're going to retain employment by those people who are taking the training. So as for right now, we're gonna put this on the back shelf and see what happens. Is that okay with you guys?
Mhm.
All right, third is the bridge on Finney Road, 11.3 K3. So I talked to Husker Steel, and they gave a bid of $179,826 for a replacement. And that would be probably sometime March, April, if we decide to go that way.
Can you tell me that amount, Megan?
179,826. And that would be us removing the old structure and doing the approaches.
That's Finney and what was it?
We're north of 286th on Finney.
You know where the White Schultz lives?
I'm just pulling it up on the map.
Yeah, it's just,
West of King
it's
Rapids.
like a 3/8 of a mile north of 286th on Finney.
Got it. Okay. So we would remove old and demo, and then that's for them to come in and,
So it says concrete. That's theirs. Dirt work is a county. Removal by county, utilities is always the county. So they would do the concrete work and erection, and we could possibly, this was one bid that the concrete was already done, and they come in and they just place it. Like we did the last one, instead of pouring it and waiting 30 days. And then the other, what we had bid on a culvert type structure, a box culvert, was $138,000. $138,400. And this is an estimate,
And that was for what kind of structure?
a box culvert. The span 32 feet 11 with 8.5 feet rise, 40 foot in length.
and the first was Husker.
Mm-hmm.
So were there width restrictions on Husker?
We'll go, I believe it's 20. Let me find it. It's gotta be right here in front of me. I think it was 26 feet,
For the Husker Steel.
yes, or 24.6, I'm not seeing,
And the box culvert would
it's
span.
25.6. If I'm reading this correctly. The box culvert is gonna be 40 feet, but then you have to allow for your slope and everything. If that, you gotta
So,
understand
as
that.
far as traveling with equipment, that would make,
It would probably be fairly close to the same. But then we would be responsible for hiring someone to come in and put out bids to pour the concrete, the footings, and put the structure in.
The 138 is just the cost of.
Well, he has labor to assemble plates and Box culverts, 49,900, geotech, which we have to do with Husker Steel. This question mark, cost of engineering and in place spread foundations, $3,000, cast in place spread foundations, 36 cubic yards at $18,000, labor to assemble structural plates, $20,000. County's gonna do the excavation and removal. Structural backfill, 15,400. Non-structural backfill, 11,100. Mobilization, $21,000 for a probable cost of 138,400.
But then you said, what other costs? would
Well,
be-
we'll have to bid this out to try to get contractors to put this up. This is not supplied by them. We'll have to do
This is-
RFPs to get all this done.
That's just your engineering estimate.
Yes,
I mean, I'm inclined to go with that. The box culvert. Just for the difference of price based on their estimates. And usually they estimate high typically to cover their selves, right?
yeah,
And
hopefully,
there's no
yes.
width restrictions for combine headers or
Nope,
so.
And Husker Steel on the bridge, are there banisters?
they usually put guardrail out, but when you get to, when you get to 5 or 6 feet, I still have to put a type 3 object marker out there at the end of it.
I'm gonna say. I
'Cause
was
we have to,
wondering
even on this one, we'll have to have some type of markers showing the edge of the bridge
on either structure.
on either structure.
Okay, I'm just trying to visualize what the impairments will be. So is that, when it's 25.6, is that actually 25.6 of open, or is that
Yes.
the,
Yes,
okay, well.
because it's a slab, and that's how wide the slab will be. And then you'll have your guardrail on the outside of that.
On the outside of that,
Yes.
because we have had bridges that by the time they put the guardrails on, it narrowed the
Yeah, no,
actual travel.
this actually goes on the outside.
Okay,
And here's the, how do we pay for it?
Well, real quick, longevity of either.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Longevity on either structure. You're talking many years.
Many
Like, yeah,
years,
So,
yes,
okay.
many years.
Um,
But here's the thing. How do we pay for it? That's the problem. The special highway fund, we won't know what we're gonna have left in it until we get done with, this phase 1. We're gonna get another close to 500,000 again next year. We just deposited 116,000, I think it was, for our last payment of the year. We can take this out of special highway, but we have to be careful that we have enough money when we're moving forward with Ottawa Road, that we can make all this work. And Mark and I have talked about it. I mean, I don't see spending 50,000 or 40,000 redoing the deck rehab and not having a bridge load rated to carry a full load.
and this is the one we discussed, culverts, it would take a couple culverts.
Yeah, and this one here is just, it's one bridge core box culvert, 32 feet, 11-inch span. It's 8.5 foot tall, and it's 40 foot long. In length. Which I don't have a problem doing that. It's just making sure we have enough money in special highway, because special highway has to help fund the contractual and the 579. So you take the 666 goes in, part of it goes into contractual and part of it goes into road projects, which is Ottawa Road. And I think we all are aware of that the cost will probably end up exceeding what a projected bid is, I would guess. I don't know.
I haven't been on it right now. You have it plated.
That,
Correct.
all right, then I called USD 377 and advised them that I would not drive my bus over that bridge.
Even plated.
Yeah, I would not drive my bus over that bridge. It weighs more than the load rating. I would not do it. So whether they are or not, I don't know. The concrete is rotten, is what the problem is. Sat there for probably 20 years with a foot of gravel on top of it. And no place for the moisture to go, so.
Is it south of 294?
Oh,
Yep.
So it's between 294 and
Yeah,
286.
but it's closer to 286.
it's just right off the highway.
Yeah.
Right over there.
So what happens? I'm asking, what happens if that bridge is closed down just with currently? Because I'm looking at an aerial map. I'm not familiar with.
Okay,
with
so
driving
if
out
you
there.
go
I
to
see
if you go to
Graham.
294th and you go west to Edwards, there is a little wooden bridge right before you get on Edwards
Okay,
that not too many people are gonna wanna.
okay.
And
What's
then
the
I
cost
believe if you go east and you come down by Kenny Rathers, there's a concrete bridge with sidewalls on it that limits the width of traffic on that road.
before you get to Graham?
Yeah,
Mhm.
Graham's by Kenny Rapids.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
So from
So
from
two
294th south,
structures
yeah,
pose
that
an
are,
issue
yes.
versus
and-
one.
And Finney, I did move it back to a secondary instead of a, a minor collector, because it goes from 286 clear to 326, and if you go on north, it goes all the way to Highway 73.
I'm gonna ask you these questions because it's your district and I'm not familiar with this, but.
Mhm.
And I don't know costs either, right? But does it make more sense to replace? And I don't cost, right? The two structures, a little wooden bridge and another one versus the one on Finney. And the only reason from up here looking down, right? There's no houses along that stretch of Finney, but there's houses along 294th and Graham and Edwards come up to 294th. Does it make more sense to take that money because you're in a budget crunch, right? To do something there, I'm asking.
With it being a minor collector, I think we replace the bridge
On Finney,
on Finney.
okay.
I think.
And then
Okay,
once
I
you
just
get
wanna-
once you get farther north, you start picking up houses.
Yeah,
So between 302 and 294th, there's 3 houses.
yep,
And then you go north of 302 and you've got a house. And then as soon as you hit,
so I was just trying to understand.
no, I'm just
Is
trying to
going-
explain.
If I lived on 294th and Finney, okay, or between Finney and Edwards, I would go home, Edwards up. There's a structure that needs replaced.
Yeah.
And then I go home. So versus Finney, if we fix Finney, there's nothing along Finney from 286 to 294. I can still get home, but the other folks, we still have
So-
2 more structures that need
Right.
replaced. So I'm just trying to,
And
thing.
then as far as your agricultural traffic, they use Finney.
that's
Finney.
okay,
That's what they
Thank
use is Finney.
It's
Nope,
an
hey.
artery.
yeah,
Yes.
okay.
I would,
No, I appreciate the conversation.
And I
'cause
mean,
I'm
we
learning
can,
too.
we can just take the money out of special highway and, with next year being the way it is, things are gonna be tough and we're gonna have hard decisions to make on what we can and cannot do. And I mean, it leads right into my next conversation. So,
Okay, so what's your plan? To do a RFP for the box culvert structure?
if you guys are good with that.
I think that's.
41,000 cheaper, I
Yeah.
think.
So, I will have a purchase order. I don't know if I can get one in here today or not. But it'll be for less, well, that's us finding somebody to hire out. So first would be to purchase the box culvert. Then we'd have to do an RFP to find the contractor to.
So should we do the RFP before we do a purchase order? The only reason I'm asking, right, is we want, well, you want, sorry, I'm walking this through my head, right?
So let me talk to the people we're pricing this through
Uh-huh.
and get a list, hopefully a list of contractors who may be interested, plus we can put it out to our own people and move forward that way, or
Cause in the
This-
past, if we have a purchase order, and then we do an RFP, and it ends up being more, or there's a
Then,
change order, we're
right.
gonna be up a creek, right? Like,
I'm a little muddy on the Husker steel is 179, 826. We do the
Tear out?
And the tear out
and
and
the
the approach.
approaches.
This other is 138,000. And then
We still do the tear out. We still do the,
approach.
let's see.
But it sounded like in there somewhere there was more concrete and more things like that we were responsible for, so. I just wanna kind of try to get true cost to true cost.
And if you flip that Husker Steel over, it tells by county or by Husker Steel. Norfolk Construction's what it's. NC is Norfolk, so it's the same people.
Okay.
So if we did a PO, it would be to Wellborn Sales for the culvert itself,
and that amount is,
49,900.
okay,
This was September 25th, so it's been about a month.
that, I'm following you now.
So
I thought you were
that's
asking
what,
for a
no,
purchase order
not for the whole amount, because we
Okay.
can't do that.
Okay, perfect, yeah,
So
I think that's a good plan.
that's what we could do. Mark, can you do that, or do you want me to have Emily do it and send it?
I think Emily should do it and send it.
Okay, all right, I will do that soon as.
She's on there,
Yeah, she's on.
yeah, she's on, so she might be doing that.
All right. And that'll come out of special highway. Emily, if you're hearing this.
Probably doing all of our other 10 jobs.
I know, right?
All right, so we'll try to get that done today. If not, it'll be ready. Well, next week. Do we have one next week?
Mhm.
Yes, okay. All right, so moving forward. Ottawa and Osborne Road. So. We went out and we milled the bad spots and we tried to use the base one. To save money, because we don't have a lot of it, and where it worked, it's really hard and rough, and some spots it didn't work. So we have 62 places. Or 63. I went out and measured them all Friday. I got a hold of a local asphalt approved paving. And he gave me an estimate of what it would cost to mill those out to 4 inches deep and replace 4 1/4 inches of asphalt. It was $116,000. Now, if you go to our, I don't know where I put it. Our procurement policy. It says. The county may purchase goods and services through non-competitive negotiations when it is determined in writing by the Board of County Commission that competitive negotiation or bidding is not feasible in the following circumstances. An emergency exists which will cause public harm as a result of delay caused by following competitive purchasing procedures. So this needs to be done as soon as possible. He sent dates that he could start next Wednesday through Friday. He can work November 6th through November 8th and November 12th through November 15th. So I don't know how they would handle that, Pat.
Yeah, I mean, I think just a motion and have it recorded in the minutes, I think that is in writing and it would be their findings.
So what I would do is I would take 2025, we'd take it out of special highway, and as soon as the first of the year gets here, I would take this total amount, it's gonna be like $180,000 by the time we pay for the asphalt. And take it out of surface road projects and put that back into special highway.
To keep that
To
fund.
keep that way we put the money back into special highway. It would cut us back on what we had planned to do, but in situations like this, we have to find a way to make things work, and that's the best way I can do it. I sent an email, which was to Mark and to Gabe. And I had told him what we were doing, and then he prepared this review of asphalt patching proposal. And it says, Mr. Snyder, I reviewed the proposal submitted by Approved Paving, building and asphalt patching of 63 locations of a lump sum of $116,000. The county has provided traffic control, trucking, and the asphalt. Per our conversation, your estimate of 1,000 tons of HMA for the work will require a commitment from the county of approximately 6 trucks during the 2 weeks to complete. In basis for review, the proposal I referenced in 2023 county pavement patching programs. To make a short story, or a long story short, it would have normally cost $298,000. So we're saving over $100,000 by doing it this way. Did you get this to see him? I think I sent
I
it.
used. Restroom, we have a few more questions.
Okay, these spots are results of base not being there.
Most of it, yes, most all of it. Some of the stuff we patched last year busted out too. This is gonna be an ongoing situation until we get the road fixed.
Okay, so this is just still a temporary fix.
Yes,
basically.
it
Okay.
is. And it's
And-
unfortunate, but the traffic through Harvest this year was just horrible. And further north, it's bad. We used 2 tanks of oil in the last 2 days. Monday and then last Thursday, just on Ottawa Road. Not to that part, just on Ottawa from 262 to Curlew.
Are we still having a problem with trucks, non-county trucks coming up through there? a lot, or is
No,
it
we've
local?
got that got stopped. This is all local, or is Jefferson County farmers using that road to come to the elevator,
Mhm. So, you know, and harvest was good, so there's a lot more traffic.
right? So,
Started early and it's still going.
but until we get unfortunately, we're gonna have to have some expense
Well,
keeping it to where it's safe.
Just, yeah, this is a temporary fix. I didn't know if you look at that.
No, I was just gonna pull up this map.
So that would be from 230th to Osage,
Okay, thank you.
the whole
That
stretch.
was gonna be my next question. Let me just pull this up really quick because I wanted to get a handle on that. And also, it's not working for some reason. Threats, violations found. Oh, great. Malicious behavior detected. All right, I think I got one. Yeah, but so 230th to Osage.
Yes,
I just wanted to I know I said that in my email back to you, but this is such a concern for so many citizens in my district, and I appreciated your direct
Well, something-
solution to how we're gonna fix it, and to point out this is what I'm doing and this is why, and all the things. And I mean, I think that we have to do something. We have to.
We do.
It's a safety.
And I haven't been on the road.
well,
Oh,
it's
oh my
not,
gosh,
it's not.
Not good.
I mean,
I'm-
and
That I need to see the not good.
Yeah, well,
No,
drive-
yep,
I
just
put
drive
up
it
I put
slowly.
up signs that said reduced speed, 35 miles an hour, rough road, and it should have been 30. So we've got that on all of it, but it is rough. It was rough before, and what we did and made some of it worse. But the big spots, when we get to those big spots, if asphalt won't fix it, you know, then we're gonna have to, you know, put some rock in there, some big rock, and try to get the base up and probably run gravel over that because those are the ones that come out first. And one of them, we fixed half the road and the other half it didn't. And then there's been concrete poured in spots of this road in the past. So what that does is when you're transferring that weight off of asphalt onto concrete, it wants to push. And then when you come off the concrete back onto the asphalt, it shoves and it causes a problem. What it did is it kept you from having a soft spot in that spot. But at the ends, when you're transferring that weight, it just made a mess.
That was something that I remember when that was going on, and we were putting concrete in there. I thought, this is gonna be a nightmare someday with all the transitions from on to off. But again, trying to do something immediate to
Right.
fix. I mean, I'm not trying to second guess. I was there. I mean, that was part of the decision making.
But I would just want everybody to know that we're gonna try to keep the road as safe as we can. For everyone, but it is not a permanent fix until we get down there with our road plan.
No.
Sorry, I'm gonna have some more questions. I was just looking. Okay. So 230th all the way to Osage.
Osage, yep,
And with his timeline
we're
on
hoping,
here, that's next week.
yep,
So he's expecting a full week and then to come back a few days and then to come back.
right, because
Okay,
we
so
had to
that
fit it,
entire
so if we
timeline.
would have went a 2 week,
Yep.
fit it out for 2 weeks, and then you had enough, no, but I just want everybody to understand this. And then went the third week, hopefully most of it's done by when we would have
Oh, no, yeah.
went through the
I'm
whole
just wondering,
process.
harvest and traffic, right? So we need to let people know this is gonna be happening.
And we will run a pilot car.
Okay,
One lane will be open.
okay,
And we're gonna run a pilot car.
Okay.
So there'll be people at the ends. And we will be running a pilot car, and I will schedule people. We've been working 410s. Some people are gonna be working Fridays and not Monday or Tuesday.
okay.
When do you go to 5/8?
Well, we usually try to do it at daylight savings time, but if we're going through this and it'll still work, we're gonna do that.
Okay, so we approved this today. You could get this out on your social media to give people 5 days notice, because I think
Right.
that's gonna be the thing, right? They don't want to just interrupt like without a heads up.
Right, and then let's see.
Well, when the road
Is
is
that-
that bad, they're gonna be glad to see.
No, 100%.
But here's
They need to know before.
Here's part of it. Now, we're going to try to work with Leavenworth Asphalt Materials. They have to have a 300-ton minimum. So as long as other people are using it and we can use it, otherwise we may have to go a little further for our asphalt. But I want you to be aware of that,
Okay.
because I've already talked to him also.
And they'll truck it into.
We will truck it. We're trucking it. I did everything that I thought we could do to save us money, which it showed on Gabe's that we trying to save about $110,000 by doing something compared to what we paid last year. You know, when we had them come out and do all that.
Is that gonna damage our trucks at all?
No,
Okay.
you just spray them. We used to do it all the time.
Okay.
We used to do it all the time. So no, it shouldn't cause any problems. But I have a PO.
All right, I look for a motion to approve the purchase order to approve paving out of special highway for milling and patching of Osborne and Osage Road from 230th to Osage in the amount of $116,000. Do I have a motion to approve?
So move.
It's been moved. I will second. Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes 2-0.
And this is a proposal to sign for him, so I can get that back to him. Thank you. Then.
Just, I want to say thank you again on this work
Well-
to get a solution, because that's been very, very, very concerning to so many people that,
Well, it's concerning to me. I mean, it didn't work, but when you have to try to save what you can, and we found out that won't work. So,
What, in your estimation, why didn't the base one work on that?
because it needed dirt in it. It needed soil in it. And we didn't get that in it.
Oh, okay.
There's some spots where it worked and it's hard. I mean, it's hard, but it's rough. It's so rough. I mean, the road's level, but it's just so rough that, I mean, it's worse than driving on rock.
Hmm.
So, but that was something I wanted to try. We had it. We'd already paid for it. Unfortunately, we're out the time and some fuel, but we weren't out any money bid with somebody, or if that makes sense. So, well, the cleaning ditches and culverts. So we started on 254th. There was a person moving in a mobile home, and they wanted us to clean out the culvert. So we started digging the ditch, and the culvert was a couple feet under the ditch below. It was completely full, packed with rock, tight. And by the time we got it out of there, it was in pieces. So I replaced that culvert because we are redigging the ditches, and it says here, there was an address there. This wasn't a field entrance. There was an address. When it's necessary for the county to make new ditches along a county road that obstructs access to adjacent property, the county shall at its expense cause an entrance culvert to be constructed and maintained over such ditch. And there's a statute 68-543A. So I have 4 or 5 more culverts that need to be cleaned along that stretch that we did. And then when we cut field entrances, when we're putting these ditches in, whose responsibility is it to pay for that tube?
If we cut a new one.
I mean, it's all silted in. There's nothing, I mean, these ditches, as you know,
Mhm.
they're full. And this is, another added expense, but
So you're saying that because they're full and people just drive anywhere they want
they have.
now, and now,
Well, they've been doing it for years because
Right.
they've been full for years.
but then as we make a ditch, now there's no way they can get to their property, so there's needs to be a full. That's
Yes.
what's juxtaposed. Is there? I mean, there's no place on top of a hill. Maybe it's not exactly. where
Well,
they're
if
gonna
you
go
put
in,
if you put in new fence and gates, and you've been going in that spot for 5 or 6 years, or 8 or 9,
row crop, yeah.
yeah. So that's the, row crop. Yeah, maybe we can talk to them and see if there's someplace else. But at the same time, we're cleaning the ditches that haven't been cleaned for years, and we're trying to fix this as we go. Extend culverts, road culverts, or replace them, or whatever. When we clean a ditch, I mean, it's different, and most everybody out there on that road was happy with what we've done. There's a couple concerns by someone else, but we've managed those, and we'll get through that. But this is going to happen everywhere. And as long as, Casey, you had a question about maintaining road width. Well, we try to, on a 50-foot right of way, maintain 24 foot of road. But if there's ditches and creeks and everything along the side of the road, some spots are going to be narrower than others. Most of the feedback's been positive. It just looks different when you clean the ditch and you have a 4 slope. It makes everything look unbelievably huge. But if you're running your ditch where it needs to be, it's going to look different until everything gets reseeded. And do you have a question?
yeah, a couple things. On the right of ways, We have documented right of ways from the owners, is that right?
Well, Roger has, in GIS, we go on there and we can pull up and it will tell you what the right of way is. If I have a question, I will call and Jack will come up with the road records if we have it. But if there is no road record, and correct me if I'm wrong, Pat, if it has been maintained with a fence at a certain width for over, that's what I go off of, that's the end of the right of way for the edge. I don't know.
That makes sense. I mean, there may be some farmers that are building their fences or built their fences a foot in or something like that.
And some of them
to
a foot or
make
two
sure-
out.
You're right. It probably evens out, but some of them might have built them a foot in to make sure that they weren't encroaching, but that's probably a pretty good starting point for the discussion.
In a lot of places, you can actually see where the ditch used to be. If there's an entrance culvert and that culvert's clear back here
Yeah,
and
that's it.
the ditch now is in front of the culvert,
Mhm.
the entrance, and it's running there, the ditch should have been back there where that culvert was put in.
I guess that's the feedback that I've gotten, and I want to make sure, like, I'm all for us making progress, making things better, but we can't cost constituents money because we're making things better. Like, for instance, on 254th, and Joe and I've already talked about this example, but you're gonna go down and clean the ditches, right? And then now the folks can't access
Their gate.
their
or the-
gates where they had a culvert entrance, and we're saying, well, who's gonna do the culvert? You now have to put a culvert in your place because we cleaned the ditch. Like, that doesn't feel right, right? And
Right.
again, going back to, it's all supposed to be positive and we're
Right.
making a difference. We can't make a hurdle for someone to have to pay out of pocket for a new culvert because we're cleaning our ditches. And some of them, like we talked about Lincoln Road, right? There's no ditches. Like, the whole length of the farm, you can just drive in and out of the farm. So when you start cutting ditches to help our roads, it's gonna be a problem, right? Like, regardless of where you're at in the county.
Yeah.
So
and I know there's places too where it's part of their lawn. I mean, and they might go a half mile even away from home and they're mowing it and then all of a sudden it's
Mhm.
gonna be a big ditch. And it's
Yeah.
one right west of Nortonville and north there's a big stretch there that needs ditches bad, but it's all mowed and manicured.
So,
And some of that, I try to talk to the people about it when we get in, like, we were, right there on 254th, and one of the owners come out and he said, put the ditch where it needs to be. He said, I've been mowing this and the water can't even get to my tube.
Right.
And which we were going to, but he said, if I don't have to mow it, that's fine. The water needs to get off the road. So most people in most scenarios understand what we need to do. When the state comes by my house and they retrieve and they throw stuff out, and it just is what it is.
Yeah.
I just pick up the stuff and I continue to mow my yard. Other people within the county, if you touch that, they come unglued, so.
On a culvert that's almost completely plugged and you ditch to it and it's dug out on the bottom side. If water is getting through there, will it cut that out?
So what I have done, if there is room for water to get through it, but I've had a contractor clean the culverts for us. In a couple instances, it's $1,000 culvert, but he'll clean them. I've got 5 of them there that need cleaned. I talked to him the other day. I'm gonna look into what it would cost to rent a culvert cleaner.
What
And
is it, like
see,
an auger?
yeah, he does it with water. Some
Oh,
of them will do it with water. Most of it's,
like a fire hose. You just
well,
blast
a
it.
smaller version of it. And it just kind of keeps blowing through until,
Yeah,
if I can see in one end and the bottom of the tube is not rotten, rotted out, then we'll try to clean it. If I can't see, I can't see.
Yeah.
You take that chance. Do you spend $1,000? No, you just put a new tube in. Because you're going to throw that 1,000 away. So it's kind of a judgment call. But this is how it's going to be everywhere we go when we're fixing these roads. So it's really not gonna be a whole lot less expensive working on the gravel roads as it is the surface roads. When you figure everything in.
I guess we just need to be like my take is we have to be mindful of what we're doing and that we're not costing the landowner money
Right.
because of our efforts. So whether that be we're replacing like a culvert, but then you get into that situation, you gotta be consistent. And when you start cleaning and you have 12 culverts along one road, like that adds up really quickly. So
Yeah,
it's
that's a lot of
bigger
money.
discussion of like,
Yeah, it's $1,000 to a couple $1,000 just for the two.
and
And if
so.
you put in sections on it like you should, then you've got that much more expense also.
I was wondering, if we're putting in sections and everything on.
I did on that one. I mean,
So what do you think about having the conversations with the owners, like on the stretch of road we're gonna do, right? So, hey, Eric, we're gonna be cleaning in front of we're digging your ditch out in front of your place. And then you can get your questions answered. Well, I have a culvert here and you're gonna dig it out. How am I gonna get in? Well, and maybe we can find a happy medium where, okay,
They can
thanks for the
contribute.
heads up, like.
Mhm.
This is,
Yeah.
and I know we don't wanna get into selling to the public.
yeah, but
However-
we can charge sales tax now. That was one of our biggest.
Yeah, but you
Biggest
can get
concerns
better
was-
buying power, right? So like, if I need a culvert and it's because you're digging a ditch, maybe you're saving me money by,
Mhm.
just having those conversations
Right.
and
But it's
most
gonna,
people
it's gonna
like to
happen
see-
it's gonna happen every road we're on.
So when we have one of these that comes up and it needs to be replaced because it's completely packed. But then when you get there, it is a 15-foot tube.
So we
that's
put a
not-
30-footer in.
So
If it's longer than that, I mean, I'm not gonna buy,
but you put a 30-footer in.
we put a 30-foot in. That's
Okay.
what we do.
Well,
That's what
I
we've
was
been
wondering
doing.
if you're only,
The,
put a 15-foot back, well, that don't make sense, because trailers now are a lot longer and.
this says, and I don't know if I have the right one. If the property owner wants one longer than 30, they gotta pay the difference, but someplace it says. And I don't know if I have that piece of paper. The maximum of 30 feet, but
So
I don't have that with me.
that states
sorry.
we're responsible.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, we're responsible if we create a ditch to where they can't get into their property. Now, if they come up to us and they haven't been getting in there and they want one, I don't see where we should have to. What do you think on that? Pat?
Right, I would agree with that.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna do that.
yeah, we're not just
It
creating.
we're not just gonna say, hey, we're doing, they say, oh, you cut a ditch, I've been driving, well, you don't actually have an entrance.
Yeah, but I feel like those conversations probably should be had too.
Those
Because
things will happen.
literally from intersection to intersection, farm ground on both sides that you can just, boop, drive in and out with flush
Mm-hmm.
to the road.
Yeah,
And so those are gonna be maybe a rude awakening or a shock if we don't give them a heads up.
right. But so far, it's all been positive except for one concern.
I would add to that, they have to have, after we cut the ditch, they have to have a way to get on their property. So if we've cut the ditch the entire length of their property and so that there's no possible way to get in, we would still be responsible for
One. Okay.
One entrance.
one.
Okay.
Yeah, so like who we were talking to the other day, he has an entrance at the top of the hill. If he hadn't had any entrances anywhere else, we would have already provided the one entrance.
You understand.
So what if, for the ones that haven't had any entrances, right? And we were gonna provide one, is it at our placement or their placement request?
I don't know, the statute is not that specific. And I think reasonable people, we ought to be able to come to
As long as it,
An
an
agreement.
agreement
Okay.
on it. I mean, we wouldn't want to put it at a place where it's going to be a hazard for
Right,
traffic.
Mhm.
it would still have to.
Okay.
But a lot of these entrances were put in and nobody talked to anybody, they just put them in. We can't do anything about those, or they're,
Sure, and a lot of them were put in before there was before there were motor vehicle traffic.
Right.
Presence too.
Right. But I believe, unless you guys have any other questions, that's a lot
No.
for one day.
Well, we missed last
Thank you.
week, so we get double
Yeah.
duty today.
Anything?
We did send out the RFP on the construction part of Ottawa, putting the tubes and culverts in, and that will be, that's not next week, the following week. I wanted to make sure that we gave everybody plenty of time. There was a discussion of when to do it. But that gives, if any local contractors want to try to be KDOT approved, it gives them that opportunity. So those bids will be in the 11th or 12th, whichever day that is. And we'll go over those.
Was you gonna try to get with Emily to get that
No,
thing? that PO?
yes.
You would ask what we decided on.
Oh, yes, there's one more thing. Look right here. Has there been any real decision or what we're gonna do up there on Rollins and where we took the bridge out for those farmers? We've never ever finished anything on that. Trying to get into their properties.
Oh, okay.
The last workshop, when we were talking about that and looking at the law enforcement report on that. With the bridge specifications, did we determine that a walk bridge or something would be sufficient? Well, because, no, I'm asking. Because to get to the gentleman's point of like being able to ride the four-wheeler or to walk over to access the other part of the property, right? Like, we were trying to find solutions. And we were looking at the cost of the different road areas and terrain and
I
the
was
tubes
thinking that-
being needed. No, go ahead. I
was thinking that we had said that it was, I believe the right of way was still there, that the township could. It would be a township road and that they could bring those roads in from the south.
okay. Were we drafting something to the township or were we?
Well. Yeah, I think we talked about having some, just like a heads up to them, communication to them, yeah. So, yeah, it's more communication's good. I haven't done it yet.
And I didn't wanna, I mean, I keep bringing it up every so often because we still haven't, we haven't resolved anything, and I'm not trying to be a thorn in anybody's side. It's
No,
just,
I mean, but
for those people, it is a big concern to them, so.
Well, and I'm trying to remember, because we went through Grandeur. And also
the-
17th Street. Right? Both of those, right? were the
17th is the
options.
one that had the right of way all
The
the way
right-
through.
yeah,
And that was the one we were gonna talk to the township about.
Shannon.
Gosh, that seems like a really far stretch.
Shannon.
Yeah, it is.
Yes, I'm sorry, Eric. It is.
But in doing that, that would not have solved the Fisher's problem, correct?
Yes, it would.
No, I think it would.
It would.
It would solve everyone's problem if the road is sufficient enough. I mean, it doesn't have to be a highway, but if it's sufficient enough to get their equipment through. But there's gonna be probably some dozing and trees pushed, and
Because that would connect to the west. Like
that
you
would
go
come in from the south all the way to the old road.
to the old road to the west, that would go over to
Then they
Fisher's
could,
Farm.
yes.
Okay,
So where we cut the bridge off,
yep,
that stretch that goes up to Fisher's Farm from the north would be attached from the south right there.
Yeah, and I had talked with Roger about, I don't know if he's here, and wants to come in, but. We had talked about making sure we invested our maps. to show that it's the road.
it's an open road.
No, we need to adjust the map to show it.
49.9. Two well-worn sales. Out of special highway. I would really appreciate that. And I never sent it right back. Thank you.
And that's an open road maintained by the township.
Well,
It would.
yeah, I mean, it would be,
Okay,
I don't. The map doesn't show that level of detail. So the thing we were concerned about is it being, that I was concerned about really being apparent to somebody who was looking at the maps online, that was the case.
But any big culvert or whatever in there, that would be our responsibility. If there's big ditches, which I'm sure there probably is.
I'm just throwing this out. I'm just thinking of if there's an old fence line or whatever, which would, or an old border, and it would need to be basically reclaimed for a roadway. Do we have assets that we could help the township at least get it up to? I mean,
I don't know. I haven't
I
looked.
mean,
Well, and I have a question too, because on Roger's maps, it's notated that north of 17th Street is a private drive.
Correct, yeah. I understand that, yes.
Okay. So. It shows 17th Street ends and then it turns into private drive. So that would be the same situation as like Trago Road where we're gonna need easements on both sides.
Well,
Or, cause it's a private drive, how do
yeah,
you,
that was the discussion. What I understood the situation to be, I have not personally reviewed the road records. Was that we did locate road records for that, and that it was open, so we should already have those rights of way there, if that's the situation.
the designation of private drive is basically incorrect. Because
Yes.
it's,
Yeah.
that's the,
And of course, when the maps were made, originally, they were based on what's being used and what's readily, what's apparent and being used, and especially on rural roads, that's not, not as obvious as.
No, I understand. Understand.
all right, anything else?
Do you guys have any more questions?
I don't.
I just tried to do it real quick.
Well,
Oh,
I
yeah,
think she
let's-
may have went to a doctor's
okay.
appointment. Sorry about that.
Just give me 5 minutes or so.
Yeah, we're good on.
It's hard to do this and
Right, I understand.
Oh, speaking of that, I was gonna ask you, because I don't know how much time you prepare for our meetings, but I like to see the agenda and be prepared and know, 9 o'clock the night before is unacceptable for me. Like, we had those guidelines that department heads have to have their stuff in by, is it 4 or 5 on Thursday?
Yeah,
Which time?
I do try to have it by 5, but it's
5?
probably 4. But
It's 4 or 5 on Thursday that we make all of our departments have stuff in so that the agenda can be published on Fridays. Are you okay with pushing on the clerk to get that timeline back? Because again, last night I'm sitting there at 7:30, wonder what we have to prepare for tomorrow. And then I went to bed at 8:30. Well, I woke up this morning, it was published after that. So
Okay.
I feel like,
We can-
I think I would like to send an email from commissioners to her. But again, I don't do that without talking about it in an open meeting of making sure you're on board to say, can we work at trying to get the agenda out on Fridays? Because the hope behind that was then to give us all weekend, right, to
Mhm.
review and ask questions on Monday. If he sends something on the agenda, I see Friday and I'm like, oh, it's after hours Friday, but I can ask him Monday before the meeting, so are you good with that?
I'm good with making her aware of it. Yes.
Okay.
I don't know
I
what form exactly, but
I know sometimes I send stuff in at the last minute. It's just because I'm just finding out at the last minute.
Yeah.
I'm trying to give you a
Well,
heads up, but I try to have everything in Thursday.
100%. And there'll be instances like that, but for me, it's affecting my job. If I'm not prepared,
Right.
like if I get it at 9 o'clock the night before, like I can get in here at 6 a.m. and have a few hours to digest, but like,
you know,
that's not
sometimes
fair.
it's a lot of reading.
I
And
know.
it's like, yeah, if you just get it at 9 o'clock on the night before, and it's like, I'm not gonna read for 3 hours. here.
Right. Yeah.
Joe,
Well,
what is this for?
It is for a box culvert to replace bridge L.3-K3
.3 dash K.
on Penny Road.
0.3,
It's 11
What is it?
point,
11.
What did I say? L, it's 11.3. I'm sorry.
11 point K.
Yeah, but I didn't, it should have been 11.3 instead of 11.0. I've been typing fast for me here in the last couple of days.
Do you, out of special highway,
Yes,
do you want to take it out of like, contractual services? Or commodities, bridge material? Culvert material?
probably culvert.
I'll just reply back to Emily and tell her I got it.
All right, thank you. I did go look at those extensions. Did I tell you that this morning? And they were all brand new for the cab blade.
You say you did see them?
Yes, I was looking on Friday.
So you got them?
No, I've got to get them their blades.
Oh,
Thank you very much.
um,
does this sound okay to you? I just titled it Commission Meeting Publishing Friday. Michelle, please publish our county commission agendas on Friday so that we have the weekend to review the material and Monday to ask questions before our meeting
That's correct.
Tuesday.
Well,
We appreciate your support in making this
Mhm.
happen.
I have a PO if you guys are ready.
Yep.
For the box culvert to replace bridge L.3-K3 for $49,900 to Wellborn Sales coming out of Special Highway.
11.3.
Yeah, 11. Did I do it again?
You said L.
I don't know why. I
what does
keep
it
doing
say on there?
It's a, he's got it right. I just keep saying L. I don't know why.
So I'd look for a motion to approve this purchase order as presented by our road and bridge superintendent.
So move.
Okay, I will second. It's moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes 2-0.
Thank you all very much.
Seemed like you said something there at triggered, and now I can't remember what it was. You were talking about the extension. I'm not gonna remember it.
Okay. Well,
We'll do the
if you
next
do,
one.
send me,
Yeah.
send me an email or something and. Okay, thank you, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Pat. Thank you, I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay, unfinished business, ARPA update.
Sure. Give me a piece.
Yep, you're good.
Okay, so. After we've done the approval of the journal entry today, we've had some other expenses being paid with the court. How we're shaping up. So we have the Lloyd Group fee left to pay of 82,800. We have the last half of the jail graphic panel upgrade of 89,570. We have the preliminary road and bridge land costs of 250,000. The courthouse renovations remaining of about $52,045. I did get a invoice to pay. I don't see that. Leak and air conditioning. Into the Home Depot for supplies, but I don't exactly know what all those supplies were without looking at the invoice.
Is this
Yeah,
courtroom?
yeah. But it was in that, we put a little placeholder down here on the spreadsheet of all the different things to hold when Brian was in here visiting with us, and this was one of them, so it was paid.
Okay,
And then we're still waiting on the invoice for close to $4,000 for EMS Life Pack AEDs. They've been ordered, but we're just waiting for the invoice. So then we still have forecasted 33,000 for the sheriff on outfitting 2 patrol cars with equipment. And then the sheriff AC unit for the jail. Brian is wanting to come next Tuesday at 10. Dunn Heating and Cooling is gonna give an estimate, I think. Which then we have the design mechanical estimate that we were given that reflects a price of $177,486. I'm not for sure what Dunn Heating and Cooling will have.
So we talked about that. And I didn't like the way that that went down. We talked about replacing it, and he had a couple design mechanical and another local guy look at it and give prices of replacing it. And then the Dunn folks suggested an alternative that would be a lot cheaper. However, when comparing apples to apples, right, we ask for them all to quote the same thing, and
going right down the road I was.
yeah,
walking.
not okay. So I just, and also our timeline of getting something done.
You want to visit with Brian?
Yeah, probably. I mean,
Okay.
we need to,
How about I text him and see if he can?
and then also I was looking, cause I know I had emailed. I think, there we go. Will you please send a copy of the contract with the graphic panel upgrade? So does the contract suffice us?
It does.
Okay, so we don't have to worry about payout, cause
No,
we have till 2026.
correct.
So we're good on that
They
one.
are gonna send the invoice anyway, but was a contract signed with them.
Okay, so that doesn't count as unaccounted
It does
for.
not.
And what about lights out? Did we have a contract to outfit those cars? No.
No. And I don't know when he wants to do that.
I was trying to see. I think I left him a voicemail to make sure that he had that a couple meetings ago, just to make sure that we weren't running to the end. So,
Yeah, I've sent a couple emails myself.
okay.
I think he knows about it.
We probably need to give everyone courts and everybody a
new
hard date,
pressure.
like a hard date of like, if it's not given to us by
I said,
November 5th even, right?
I mean, it's,
Because we're out of time. Oh, I guess we still have another, but we should probably create, sorry, I'm looking, because that's election week. So even, is November 19th too late?
no.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like, because then you have basically 30 days to figure out, what are you gonna do with this? Because it's not allocated, and we're not gonna lose it.
yeah.
And if the land doesn't go through, there's another 250.
Yeah. So November 19th? Is that?
Nope. That's just.
That sounds good to me.
And then,
Cause it's been
Yeah.
what I've been thinking about in the combine for this last week and 2 weeks. It's like, we need to get this stuff locked down.
and then that way you can correspond and even CC us in on behalf of the commission to say, if we don't have a contract or a purchase order by November 19th, then basically we're going to reallocate those dollars.
Right.
I mean,
I wanna bring up one thing that was. My error. And so I sit and go through this list. Every couple weeks with the Lloyd Group to make sure what you've approved. And spent and how it tracks through that. Everything's done with it and there's no issue. So we go through every expense and I give them the purchase order, we look at the invoice. We do all the due diligence with it, so that there's no question. They had a question about their leftover dollar amount. So it was right now at 82,000. And I had a $4,000 difference than what they had
paid to them.
paid to them. So that we owed them 4,000 more. So I looked through. Or owed them 4,000 less. I accounted for it that we did not. That we did pay them, but we have not paid them. So I went back through the invoices, they showed me their invoices, I went through mine. And this formula that I had to get to their remaining balance, the $4,000 was not in there. So instead of 70 some thousand, it's now 82,000. So,
Isn't it weird how numbers work? Cause we had literally $4,600
yes,
left.
so now with that,
We're pretty much a
it's
walk.
$154.16 over.
Okay,
So we'll have to take that from some.
that's crazy. Yeah.
Is it premature to even throw things out, what we would consider if there's leftover or?
I'm not ready yet. I need to
Okay.
think about it though.
Well,
But to
but I
your
mean,
point, we
because,
need to start thinking
you
about
know,
it.
if we wait till the 19th and all of a sudden now, well, it's
Yeah.
like, I think we need to individually
Yep.
think of where that would be best spent and
I'll
not
send
just
you a
best spent.
revised list.
Hmm?
I'll
Yeah.
send you a revised list.
Okay.
Okay.
But it's also, we'll need to have something that's feasible to get under contract or spent within. When is the very last that we could have actually work on this and to get it under wraps that's safe?
So. What I've been told is any unspent, unallocated money has to be to the federal government by 12/31/24.
Give or take 2 weeks.
So that means if you wanna cut them a check. It should probably be done by the 17th of December. Or if we do a wire back to them, which we can do, I only need 2 days for that. But I don't think we should ever go that close. I think like December 3rd or December 10th should be the hard. We're done with it.
Well, I think, if there's anything unspent, if we're waiting to the 19th, I think we'll need at least to the 10th to try to get
Let's think
something
of-
that's doable. Does that make sense, or does that?
Roughly, what's that dollar number? 250 and 50. So 300 and then 30.
Yeah, are you talking like the courts and the
Yeah, everything
Plans. everything undone? Okay.
yes, that we, like to Eric's point, be thinking about what would you do with this amount?
516,500.
Okay, thank you.
So there could be other purchases that we've already spent. That you could authorize, like what we did for this payroll, the personnel services, you could authorize a transfer and spend it that way. For something that we've already, like to reimburse what we've already done. It could be something with an ambulance or anything, really.
Got it.
We just have to have it. Show proof that we've paid it, all of those things.
All right. Any more on that update?
No, ma'am.
County counselor updates?
We had talked, about getting into some detail on accounts receivable for Atchison Senior Village. And that discussion necessarily involves talking about individual patients from the facility back when we ran it. And so to the extent we want to have the discussion about the specific accounts, that needs to be in an executive session. To preface that, there are about $350,000 that are listed as accounts receivable, or maybe it's better to say as accounts that were not paid. That there are also about $30,000 in where we've collected too much, where we have credits on some account that needs to be paid back to somebody. We certainly could have a detailed going through line by line on the accounts, and I'm ready to do that, but we need to go into executive session to do that. And I think that discussion will probably take about half an hour. I don't know if you want to wait to have it when Commissioner Rivas is here. Or we could.
Does it make me any difference?
So, to me, we have 45 minutes left, and so we have time for it. I don't have anything else on our agenda today. And then maybe get a handle on with those over collected credits. Is your recommendation going to be go ahead and cut those and get them off?
We'll talk about that in executive session.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's just do it.
It would be
Attorney client.
attorney client for 1/2 hour.
Yes, and Mark should be here as part of that.
Okay. I will move that the Board of County Commissioners recess into executive session at 12:16 PM for the consultation with an attorney for the public body, which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship as allowed by K.S.A. 75-4319B2, and that the purpose of the closed session is to protect the confidentiality of the discussion, and that the board come out of executive session in 30 minutes in the commission room of the courthouse basement. And those present will be 2 commissioners, county counselor, and finance director.
I will second. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes.
Is there any?
Here. Okay. We are back in open session, and we have been made aware of another executive session. So when Eric gets back, we will call for that. Hey, Pat, really quick, so I can respond on our last topic of the 310 Rollins. You're going to get with the township, correct?
Well, I want to make sure we have all the facts right, but then a letter to them and probably copy to the landowners that have been here.
Okay,
So that
so
everybody.
when a landowner's asking, what should my response be? Because I don't want to speak out of turn, but I was gonna say CC you in that you were gonna get with the township.
Well, I'm gonna check the records first.
Okay.
To make sure that we actually have it. I think you could say within the next week, you should have a response from.
Okay,
the county, yeah, or from the county council.
Okay. thank you.
Back.
Yeah.
And where did I write this? How long?
30.
This would be non-elected. I'll move the Board of County Commissioners recess into executive session. What's the time?
12:50.
12:50. To PM to discuss personnel matters of non-elected personnel as allowed by K.S.A 75-4319B1. And that the purpose of the closed session is to protect the privacy rights of the employee. And that the board come out of executive session in 30 minutes in the commission room of the courthouse basement. And those present will be two commissioners, finance director, Jody, HR, and is Pat in or not?
Yes,
And Pat Henderson.
I will second. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, passes 2-0.
That's a shorter discussion.
You were on.
Okay, we are back in open session. Yeah. Would you want to run up and see? It's probably quicker than an email.
Jody?
The fridge.
For a beverage?
Yes.
Since she's not available till 2:30.
Okay. So do we want to do workshop until then? I just have all for approval of the expenses.
Okay,
Do I have a motion to approve the expenses?
for both.
Yes, from October 15th and 22nd, right?
It's actually the 16th and the 23rd. That's when they're.
Wednesday, 16th and the 23rd.
So moved.
Okay, I will second that. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, passes 2-0. So I would look for a motion to adjourn into workshop until 2:25.
Doing recess.
Sorry, recess. Thank you.
Yeah.
Recess
Awesome.
into workshop. I will second, moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes 2-0.
Everything's on.
Okay, we are back in open session. We are going to have another executive session.
So there'll be commissioners, treasurer, HR, and Pat. Or.
Anyone?
Okay. Okay, I'll move that the Board of County Commissioners recess into executive session at, I'm missing,
2:29.
229. To discuss personal matters of non-elected personnel as allowed by K.S.A 75-4319B1. And that the purpose of the closed session is to protect the privacy rights of the employee. And that the board come out of executive session in 30 minutes in the commission room, courthouse basement. And those present will be two commissioners, County Treasurer and HR. And Pat Anderson, County Council.
Okay, I will second. Been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes 2-0.
Okay, so 259.
Okay, we are back in open session. We would like to extend the previous executive session. I'd look for a motion to extend it another 10 minutes.
So moved.
Second, moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Passes 2-0.
Needs to be consistent.
Okay, so are we
I think we're-
good?
I think we've
Good.
done as much as we can today.
Okay.
Thank you for coming in.
Yeah, thank you. All right, we're back in open session. I'll look for a motion to approve. Did we do the bills?
Yes.
We already
For
did
both
the
weeks.
bills. So public comment. Okay, seeing none, I will look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I will second. Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes 2-0.